Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, I don't know what budget the Right Honourable Gentleman was reading, but it wasn't the budget that was put on the table this afternoon. Madam Deputy Speaker, I think the Chancellor got the judgment exactly right today. She had a difficult inheritance, she had a difficult hand, she had difficult decisions to take, and she got the calls absolutely right. We have a situation now, the budget now being delivered, where we have growth this year that has been forecast to rise. We have business investment over the course of this Parliament, which is forecast to rise. We have inflation, which is coming down. We have forecast interest rates, which are coming down. We have energy bills for our constituents, which are coming down. Yeah. And we have child poverty, which is actually set to collapse. That is 8,900 people in my constituency who will be better off because of this budget, a Labour budget, which is delivered by a Labour Chancellor this afternoon. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, as you know, I've been in this House for 21 years. I have sat on both front benches, I have sat on both sets of back benches. And so I've come to see, over the years, the selective amnesia which somehow bedevils debate in this place, and the problem of unreliable narrators. But I have to say, I have never seen amnesia on as epic a scale as I heard from the Leader of the Opposition today. Now, I think it is quite well established, Madam Deputy Speaker, that back in 2010, I thought the numbers were a little bit tight. I thought difficult decisions were going to be needed, which is why we left a judiciously balanced budget, 2/3 spending cuts, 1/3 tax rises, that would have halved the deficit in 4 years and brought debt borrowing down by 2016. That, of course, was not the strategy that was pursued by the last government. And what is the difference that that made? Well, the party opposite saddled this country with an extraordinary £1 trillion of debt higher than the situation that we left with. That's why we're paying £1.10 in interest rates today, because they more than doubled the national debt. And before we hear any nonsense about COVID, let us just remember that 80 to 90% of the increase in debt that the Conservative saddles us with was before the COVID lockdowns began. I give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Oh, nothing as contemporary as COVID, don't worry about that. I just wondered how much money he left in the coffers when he was Chief Secretary in 1997.
Well, I can tell him. I don't know what his faculty of maths is like. I don't know if he realises that a trillion has 12 noughts. But we left the national debt £1 trillion lower than it is today. £2.7 trillion. That is how much this country is now borrowing. Now, the great tragedy, of course, of all of this is that if they had borrowed money at low interest costs and actually invested it in something that enhanced productivity, we would be in a better position today. The Chancellor wouldn't have had to deliver the budget that she had to deliver today. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Look at the International Monetary Fund. 25th of July. The report is very clear. The fact is that our productivity growth under the party opposite collapsed by 1/3 compared to the good old New Labour years. Our productivity divergence now with the United States is so serious. Our productivity growth has been half what it has been in the United States. And the OBR is really clear today. The downgrade on growth that they have baked into their numbers is entirely because of the productivity collapse, because they wasted the money during their 14 years in office. And of course, I should just say, by the by, because Conservatives are Conservatives, they managed to put £1 trillion on the debt, they managed to collapse the productivity numbers, and they still managed to put inequality up through the roof. That is why we all had in our constituencies food bank queues that we will never forget. I will never forget, for as long as I live, the phenomenon of collecting food in inner city Birmingham because our food banks had run out of food. I will never forget the children at Adderley School who were literally helping restock our food banks by taking penguin bars out of their lunch boxes to put them in food collection crates so that their classmates didn't go hungry at lunchtime. That's the reality of the child poverty legacy that this party left us with, and that is the legacy that the Chancellor got to grips with today. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, we look forward on our committee to scrutinising the proposals that have been laid out today. We have been travelling the country over the last couple of weeks, talking to business about what they wanted out of this budget. And there were three things that were very clear. What is extraordinary about this country? These are isles of wonder. We now stand on the threshold of an extraordinary new era of innovation. This is an extraordinary country. We are an inventive country. We have been since the Industrial Revolution started in Birmingham back in 1761. But That is going to be as of nothing compared to what is about to unfold in this country, and we are at the front of the grid in the race for the 21st century. But we need to mobilise capital on a completely new scale, and that is why certainty for business was so important. So I welcome the fact that the headroom has been put up to £22 billion a day. I welcome the Chancellor is ending this biannual circus of fiscal speculation by having one forecast a year. I have to say to the House that I seriously think that Mr Hughes needs to consider his position. The fact that we have had a leak of the OBR forecast before this House got to debate the budget, I think is appalling, and it has bedevilled us, this uncertainty. Now, alongside that, we have got to step up the mobilisation of capital on a completely different scale. I will in a moment. That's why I absolutely welcome the package that the Chancellor has set out today to mobilise investment capital in a completely radically new way. The expanding of EMI, the boosting of VCTs, the UK listing relief, that is almost £3 billion worth of extra incentives for our entrepreneurs in this country. That is a game changer, not just for start-ups, but for scale-ups who are trying to make sure that we end this craziness of brilliant people in this country, brilliant inventors in this country, starting new businesses, growing it nicely, and then getting snapped up and shifted out to the United States. We have to make sure that we are growing and fostering more big, global dominating companies here in this country. So I welcome the way the Chancellor lent in behind those firms today. But the third thing, Madam Deputy Speaker, that we've got to do is to improve the return on investment of investments made in this country. So that means a couple of things. It means bringing down energy costs radically. We didn't have a business energy cost scheme scored in the budget today, but that is because I know the government is now out to consultation. Every single member of our committee would implore the government to do whatever it takes to make sure business energy costs in our country are internationally competitive. It is wrong that firms like Nissan say to us that their energy costs up in Sunderland are the most expensive energy costs of any Nissan plant in the world. We have got to bring business energy costs down. But the message alongside that we hear from small business in particular is that we have also got to bring down business rates. So, looking at the policy decisions in the scorecard, that looks like about a £4.2 billion subsidy to help bring business rates down. That should mean that we have the lowest business rates that we have seen in this country. That is a very good thing. But where I would urge the Chancellor to go further is in making sure that we actually cut the costs of red tape in a really bold and radical way. As we travelled around the country, Madam Deputy Speaker, business after business told us not just that they want less red tape, they want better regulation, and crucially, they want departments to coordinate with each other and regulators to coordinate with each other. So we don't have one department over here making one decision and another department over here making another. And so ensuring that we have a Whitehall machine that actually moves at the speed of business in this new age of AI is going to be more and more important as a competitive advantage. So look, I think this is one of the best places in the world to be an inventor. I think it's one of the best places in the world to build a start-up business. We now need to make sure that we are one of the best places in the world to scale up a business. And that will be the nature of the decisions that we will be putting to ministers over the course of the weeks to come from our committee. Let me just finish, Madam Deputy Speaker, with this point. The thing that shone through from the statement from the Chancellor today was one thing above all, and it was ambition. Ambition for the future of this country, a confidence in the future of this country. That is why one of the most important numbers that we will read in the OBR forecast today is the fact that business investment is not flat, it's not falling, it's soaring. It is set to soar by £6 billion over the course of the forecast period. That ambition for this country is a sharp contrast to the amnesia of the party opposite, and that is because we on this side of the House know how futures are really built.